So this is how I became a registered nurse. Step number one, most importantly, make sure you do your research. Research to make sure that the school you're looking into or the school you want to go to is accredited. No employer really, truly, honestly cares what school you go to, as long as it's an accredited school and you graduate and you pass your NCLEX from an accredited program. So this is my journey as an LVN. It's by no means any advice on how to go to RN school, but it is just my journey. Well, there are many ways you can go to nursing school. First way, you can actually apply for a 4-year program where you apply to a university and you do the first 2 years concentrated more on your prerequisites into the nursing program, and the last couple of years or so are dedicated to the nursing program, where you do your clinicals and you do your nursing courses. The second way, which is what I personally did, was I broke it down into bite-sized pieces, and I call them bite-sized pieces because for me it was all about kind of instant gratification, and also school is truly not for everyone, and sometimes midway you can kind of get a little overwhelmed. So I decided to break it down. So I did my 2 years of prerequisites for my bachelor's program and got those out of the way. And then I applied for my licensed vocational nurse program, which is 1 year, 2 semesters. First semester is more class type courses, and also you do labs where you go into a simulation lab, which is which we call sim lab in nursing school. And the second part is which is the second semester and last semester of licensed vocational nursing school, is clinicals. So I did my prerequisites and then I applied for LVN school, which is licensed vocational nursing school. Some states call it licensed practical nursing school, LPN/LVN. After doing my LVN school, I worked for 2 years as a licensed vocational nurse, and then I applied and got accepted into an RN program, which was not 2 years, which was 1 extra year to make it a total of 2 years of nursing school. So again, while in LVN nursing school, majority of the first semester, we did most of our classes, i.e. lectures, some labs, which is the sim labs or simulation labs. And the sim labs basically provide hands-on experience or practical for the students. That way you're ready to go into the work environment when you're done with nursing school. The sim lab provides hands-on experience to nursing students. That way when you go to your clinicals, you've already practiced on some of these experiences, and hopefully when you go into the workforce also you're already prepared or semi-prepared, or at least you have a clue about what's going on. So it's a lot easier when you're training as a nurse. It's a lot easier to catch on because in the sim lab you already practiced some of these experiences. Therefore, in the sim lab, the nursing school provides a mannequin which the instructor is gonna throw at you a bunch of different experiences, and you're supposed to play them out as if you're at work. What you learned in class, you go and practice it in the sim lab on that mannequin. That sim lab mimics a lot of healthcare settings, like the emergency room, labor and delivery, pediatrics, and even the operating room. So the next, which is the last semester in LVN school, we did some classwork, lectures, and we also did our clinicals, where we would go into different settings like hospitals, nursing homes, some community health nursing like home health and hospice, and do our practicals or clinicals out there. In most states, LVN school is only 2 semesters, which is equivalent to 1 year, and most schools do not require a lot of prerequisites. Like the state of Texas only required you to have anatomy 1 and 2, and actually pretty much that was all they required you to have. I believe. I already had so many prerequisites, I kind of forget, but it only needed like two things, which is the anatomy 1 and 2. Some people do ask, how are clinicals really like? So clinicals really mimic a typical work day of a nurse. You go and shadow a regular nurse, and they teach you they walk you through what they're doing through the day, and they teach you what you do as a nurse in certain circumstances as they come. And since you've been practicing while you're in school, they will, under their guidance, they will let you do some they'll let you do some nursing chores, and also your instructor will be checking you off as you go, making sure making sure you're doing things the right way. But it's a lot like training with an experienced nurse. So pretty much it's like training with an experienced nurse, except you're a student. So they can let you do most of these things on your own as a student, again because you're practicing. So some days we would have 12-hour shifts, a lot like what nurses typically have. Our clinicals mimicked a regular nurse's schedule. So some shifts were 12-hour shifts, meaning we would do like 3 days of clinicals, and then the other 2 days we would do that in school, where we would have either lectures or we would do a bunch of tests. Sometimes we would do 8 hours shifts though, and maybe work 4 days, or sometimes do the entire 5 days, and then go back to the school and either do some more sim lab work, or do some lectures, or do some tests. But on clinical days, we had a lighter load at school. As opposed to doing tests, we did more of either a lecture or some more lab. As for the tests, some schools did the HESI tests and some schools did the ATI tests. For my LVN school, we did the HESI test. For my RN school, on the other hand, we did the ATI test, which to me was a lot harder than the HESI test. Fast forward. In my case, when I was done with my licensed vocational nursing program before graduating to go out and do the NCLEX. This test, some people call it the exit exam. And this really just means you will do one final major exam before you graduate your nursing program. And this exam, the exit exam, which was HESI for my LVN, is structured a lot like the NCLEX exam, and it kind of gives you an insight as to what you may expect when you're going to do your NCLEX. I did feel like it was a lot harder than the actual NCLEX. Now, once you're done with your nursing school and you've done the exit test from the school, you have to go ahead and prepare and take the NCLEX exam, which is the licensure exam. Otherwise you cannot work as a nurse without your NCLEX, without passing your NCLEX exam. Each state has its own NCLEX exam, and most states, or some states, you can only practice in the state that you did your NCLEX exam in. And if you have to work in another state, you would have to do some additional paperwork, like getting your license endorsed in said state. Now, they do have what is called compact nursing states, which just means that if you're licensed in these compact states, those states allow you to practice nursing in other states that are part of the agreement without any extra paperwork. One caveat though, you may want to look at your Board of Nursing website, because some of these things change fairly often. For instance, I happen to know that about 2018, they made some slight changes to their original compact state licensure, where originally they didn't require applicants to do federal fingerprint-based background checks, criminal background checks, and the new compact licensure requires that to be done. Back to my nursing journey. Really fast forward. After nursing school, I took my LVN NCLEX exam, which I passed on my first try. And at the time, while I was going to LVN school, I happened to be working in a nursing home as a CNA, and all that I did was transition from a CNA to a licensed vocational nurse in the same facility. So it was fairly easy, and I didn't have to look for a job. And I stayed there for 2 years until I relocated to a different state for my RN school. Now, while I was awaiting to do my LVN NCLEX, I could have worked as a graduate nurse because most of these companies understand that you just graduated nursing school and you're waiting to do your NCLEX. If you pass your NCLEX, you continue on to practice as a nurse. If you fail your NCLEX, they either revert you back to your old position or they reject your job application if you had applied for one and been accepted to a new job, based on the fact that you're going to pass your NCLEX. But I did my NCLEX pretty quickly, so I did not see a need to work as a graduate nurse. Again, after I graduated my LVN school and passed my LVN NCLEX, I went ahead to work for 2 years as a licensed vocational nurse. And meanwhile, also, I went ahead and checked to see if there was any prerequisites that I hadn't done for my RN program. And I went ahead and did those. It wasn't too many because I did majority of my prerequisites that are required for the BSN program before I went into the LVN school. That way I don't waste time in between transitioning from one program to another doing prerequisites. So I had like maybe 1 or 2 prerequisites that I hadn't finished. So I went ahead and took those while I was in my LVN program. When it was time for me to apply for my RN program, I applied to so many schools, even though I really had my eyes set on just a few, like a handful of them, really and truly. But I did this because honestly, I was just ready to transition into my registered nursing school, and the programs are so competitive and I wasn't taking any chances. So I selected quite a few of the schools that I would have liked to go into and just applied to a whole bunch of them, in-state and out-of-state as well. So that enabled me to increase my chances of getting accepted into a nursing program. So most of the programs I applied for were community college programs, which I'm a big advocate for actually. And one of them was a private program. And in as much as I'm a big advocate of the community college programs, I ended up actually choosing the private school because their entrance date, the day that I was supposed to report to school, worked very well with my timeline of when I was ready to go to school. So that is the only reason I chose to go to that school as opposed to community colleges. I encourage most of my friends who are interested in nursing school to go to community colleges, really, because it increases your chances of graduating with either no student loans or minimal student loans, because student loans are a beast. So an additional year of nursing school later, I officially had my ADN, which is my associate's degree of nursing, which is a 2-year program of nursing really, but I already did the 1 year in LVN school. So the second year for my ADN made it a total of 2 nursing school years. And that is when I did my NCLEX, and I did a video on my RN NCLEX where I passed on my 3rd attempt. I did fail 2 times, and on the 3rd try, I guess 3 times a charm, I did pass on my 3rd attempt. So please feel free to go back and watch that video on how I did my NCLEX 2 times and passed on my 3rd attempt. So anyway, there are multiple steps that you can take to become a registered nurse. And one of the most popular ones is to apply into a 4-year program where the first 2 years or so are spent doing the prerequisites, and then you transition right onto the same nursing program that you applied for in the beginning. And those 2 last years are nursing school years. The second way you can get into nursing school is to do all your prerequisites that you would need for your 2-year ADN program, or even your 4-year RN program, BSN program, and then go ahead and apply for your ADN program, which is a 2-year program. It's a lot shorter than the 4-year program, and chances of you not giving up in the middle of the program are, kind of reduced. Well, in my case, I felt like. Or the third way, which is what I did, you can literally do all your prerequisites for your bachelor's program or even your master's program if you know you're going to go that far. And then you break it down into bite-sized pieces, like I did, which I don't include my CNA that I did before I went into LVN school, because I did that because I knew I wanted to go into nursing. And so you do your prerequisites for your bachelor's or your master's degree, And then you apply for your LVN school. It's a lot easier to get into, and it's also a lot faster, and you get, almost instant gratification if you plan to work while you go to school. And then you transition from LVN to RN, which is the 2-year program, which is another 1 year, another bite-sized piece. And then you transition from your RN ADN to your bachelor's, which most programs could be anywhere between 1 year to 2 years. Or some people have a fast track program where you do your RN, the 2-year RN, to your master's program, whichever route you decide to take for your higher learning. And then from there, you can do your nurse practitioner and your doctorate program if you so choose to. I hope this video was of value to you. And if it was, please subscribe, like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.